I didn't think anything unusual was happening at first. At that time, I believed my life was normal, even a little boring. I was 28 years old, living in Chicago, working as a designer for a small company. I paid my rent, met friends on weekends, and tried not to think too much about the future. I had been single for a while and told myself I was fine with it. Eventually, I downloaded a dating app again. Not because I was desperate, but because I was lonely and curious. I wasn't looking for anything serious. At least that's what I told myself. That's where I saw him. His profile stood out because it didn't look flashy. He was 45. His photos were simple. One in a suit, one outside near a river, one with another man who looked like he was in the military. His description mentioned faith, family, responsibility. He wrote that he valued honesty and kept his word. It felt mature, calm, different from most profiles. I liked it. He matched with me the same day. We started talking. He didn't flirt aggressively. He asked normal questions about my job, my day, what I like to do in my free time. He wrote clearly, politely, without pressure. After a few days, we talked on the phone. His voice was calm and confident. He didn't rush the conversation or try to impress me. He told me his name was Michael. He said he lived in Chicago but traveled often. He had 3 adult children. He talked about them with pride. He also mentioned he owned a house in another country, Spain, and traveled there frequently. When I asked why, he said it was a family property and part of his responsibilities. I asked him directly if he was married. He didn't answer right away. Then he said his situation was complicated and that he didn't want to lie to me or drag me into problems. He said he had been lonely for a long time and was trying to figure out his life. I accepted that answer. I shouldn't have, but I did. He spoke a lot about faith and values. He said his family was religious. He didn't judge me for not being deeply religious myself. He said belief was personal and not something to show off. That made him seem sincere. After about 2 weeks, we met in person. We had dinner at a small restaurant. Nothing fancy. He was polite, attentive, calm. He listened more than he talked. After dinner, we walked for a bit and talked about work, travel, and life in general. He didn't rush physical contact. That made me trust him more. After that, we started seeing each other regularly. Sometimes he disappeared for a few days, explaining that he had to travel unexpectedly. When he came back, he acted like everything was normal. He brought small gifts. He remembered details I had mentioned before. I took that as a sign that he cared. About a month later, he suggested we spend a weekend outside the city. He said he had a house in a quiet area and wanted me to see it. I hesitated, but he didn't push. He said if I wasn't comfortable, we could cancel. That made me feel safe enough to agree. We drove there together. The house was large, new, and well-maintained. It didn't feel like a temporary place. It felt like a home someone invested a lot of money and time into. Inside, everything looked recently renovated. New furniture, clean kitchen. Nothing personal, but nothing random either. He showed me around. He said he built the house as a fresh start. I didn't ask what that meant. Upstairs, I noticed a folded baby blanket on a shelf. It had a woman's name embroidered on it. It didn't make sense to me. This house was supposed to be his quiet place, his escape. The blanket didn't fit that story. He saw me looking at it and quickly covered it with a magazine. He said it was old and didn't mean anything. His explanation was short, too short. But I didn't push. I didn't want to create conflict over something that could have an innocent reason. Not long after that, his phone rang. He looked at the screen and immediately declined the call. I saw a contact name, but not clearly enough to read it. There was a heart icon next to it. He put the phone away and told me not to worry. He said we were there to relax and enjoy the weekend. I nodded. I stayed quiet. At that moment, I felt uncomfortable, but I still didn't think the truth was as serious as it really was. I told myself I was overthinking. After that weekend, our relationship became more regular. There was no big shift, no dramatic change. We simply continued. We saw each other when he was in the city. When he wasn't, we talked on the phone. Sometimes every day, sometimes less. I noticed the inconsistency, but I explained it to myself the way he did. Work, travel, responsibilities. He told me more about his life, but never all at once. Always in parts. He said his children were adults and didn't need him the way they used to. He said his family expected certain things from him because of their faith and reputation. He talked about duty often, about sacrifice, about how people judged without knowing the full story. I listened. I believed him. A few months into the relationship, he told me he loved me. It wasn't sudden. He said it calmly, as if it was something he had already thought through. I didn't answer right away. I remember feeling afraid, not of him, but of how easily I wanted to believe it. Eventually I said it back. Not long after that, he proposed. There was no ring at first. We were sitting in his house outside the city, having dinner. He said he didn't want to make it theatrical. He said he was too old for games and surprises. He said he wanted a future with me, a real one. Marriage, stability, a clean start. I asked about timing. He said soon. Not immediately, but soon. He said there were things he had to finish first, legal matters, family expectations. He said it wasn't simple, but it was moving in the right direction. I accepted that. Again. From that point on, the wedding existed more in words than in reality. Every time I brought it up, he agreed with me. He said it mattered. He said it was coming. But there was always a reason to wait. A trip. A delay. Something unresolved. Then came the disappearances. The first time he told me ahead of time. He said he had to travel, and that communication would be limited. He said he would explain later. I didn't like it, but I trusted him enough not to argue. He didn't answer my messages for 10 days. When he finally called, he sounded normal. Not apologetic, not distant, just normal. He said he had been at a military base, working on a project connected to one of his responsibilities. He said phones weren't allowed. He said it wasn't something he could talk about freely. I asked questions, not aggressive ones, practical ones. Where was the base? Why now? Why him? His answers were vague but confident. He said I worried too much. He said this was the reality of being with someone like him. He said if I wanted something easy, he understood. I didn't want to be the woman who made things harder. So I stopped asking. After that, the pattern repeated. He would disappear for days or weeks. Then he would return and act as if nothing unusual had happened. He was affectionate when he came back, generous. He brought gifts from his trips, clothes, jewelry, cash sometimes, saying he knew I hated asking for help and wanted me to feel secure. I didn't see the money as control back then. I saw it as care. He talked more seriously about our future. He said once everything was settled, we could live part-time in the other country. He said the house there was peaceful. He said I would love it. He talked about me meeting his children when the time was right. That phrase came up often. When the time was right. I noticed he avoided taking photos together. If I tried, he would say he looked tired or that he preferred to live in the moment. He didn't post anything online. He said social media was shallow and against his values. I admired that about him. I didn't realize it was also convenient. He also became more careful. He kept his phone close. If a message came in, he would turn the screen away. He never left it unattended. When I asked about it once, he laughed and said it was habit from his work. I wanted to believe him. And mostly, I did. He suggested a vacation. He said we needed time together, away from everything. He chose a luxury hotel by the beach. He paid for everything. He said he wanted to spoil me. He said we deserved it. I remember thinking that this trip would either calm my doubts or confirm them. The first days, they were easy. Warm weather, long dinners, quiet mornings. He was attentive, present, loving. He talked about the wedding again, more clearly this time. He said we would set a date soon. He said he was tired of delays too. I relaxed, just a little. On the fourth day, we went to a restaurant by the beach. It was expensive, crowded, loud. We had been there before. I got up to go back to the room because I had forgotten my sunglasses. When I returned, he was still at the table, talking to the waiter. I took his phone with me by accident. It was in my bag from earlier. I noticed it when I was already inside the room. I didn't plan to look at it. I told myself that clearly, deliberately. I even put it down at first. But something in me wouldn't let it go. The doubts I had pushed aside for months were suddenly loud. I unlocked the screen. I knew his code. He had given it to me himself. There was a hidden conversation folder. Inside it, I saw messages between him and a woman. They were not romantic. They were practical, detailed. They talked about contractors, materials, timelines. They discussed stairs, paint, renovation plans. They talked like a married couple building a life together. And suddenly, everything made sense. I sat on the edge of the bed and felt very calm. Not emotional, just clear. I took money from his wallet for a taxi. I left the phone on the table. I didn't leave a note. When he realized I was gone, I knew what he would do. But by then, I was already doing something he hadn't planned for. I didn't cry on the way home. I expected to, but I didn't. I sat in the back of the taxi and watched the city pass by the window. Everything looked normal. People were walking, cars were stopping at traffic lights, someone was laughing on the sidewalk. It felt strange that the world didn't react to what had just happened in my head. When I got to my apartment, I locked the door and sat on the floor with my back against it. I replayed what I had seen on his phone, over and over. The messages weren't emotional. That was the worst part. They were calm and organized. Two people planning a life together, talking about their home, their future, about things you don't discuss with someone you're leaving. I understood then that I hadn't discovered an affair. I had discovered my place in his life. I wasn't the complication, I was the side story. My phone started ringing within an hour. I didn't answer. Then messages came, short ones at first, asking where I was, saying he was worried, then longer ones, apologies without specifics, promises to explain everything. I turned the phone face down and didn't respond. Later that night, I picked it up again. I wasn't ready to talk to him, but I needed something else. I needed the truth to exist outside of me. I remembered the contact name from his phone. I hadn't read it fully, but I remembered the letters. I opened my own phone and searched his contacts from memory. It took a while. My hands were shaking, and I had to stop more than once. Eventually I found a number that matched. It was his wife. Seeing it written there made my stomach turn. A real number. A real person. A real life that had existed alongside mine the entire time. I thought about deleting it. I thought about going to bed and pretending none of this had happened. But then I remembered the conversations about the house, the stairs, the plans, the calm certainty in those messages. I sent her a short text. I didn't accuse. I didn't explain everything. I just said who I was and that I had something she needed to see. Then I sent the video. It was one he had sent me weeks earlier. Nothing explicit, but intimate enough. Him telling me he loved me. Him talking about our future. His face. His voice. Clear and unmistakable. After that, I put the phone down and waited. She replied less than 10 minutes later. Her messages were not calm. They were angry, confused, desperate. She asked who I was. She asked how long it had been going on. She asked why I was doing this to her family. I answered what I could. I told her I didn't know he was married. I told her I believed him. I told her I was sorry. I don't know if she believed me. I'm not sure it mattered. The next morning, I woke up to dozens of missed calls. From him. From numbers I didn't recognize. From one number that turned out to belong to his son. That scared me. He called later that day. I answered once just to hear what he would say. He didn't scream. He didn't cry. He sounded controlled. Too controlled. He said I had made a mistake. He said I didn't understand the situation. He said I had caused damage that couldn't be undone. He said his family was religious, that their reputation mattered, that his children were furious. He said his sons wanted to fly out and confront me. He said I was putting myself in danger. I hung up. For the first time, I felt something close to fear. I stayed with a friend for a few days. I didn't go to work. I didn't leave the apartment unless I had to. My phone kept lighting up, messages from him asking me to meet, promising explanations, offering money, saying he could fix this. Eventually, he showed up. I don't know how he found me. I didn't ask. He stood outside the building and waited until I came down. He looked tired, older than I remembered. He said he just wanted to talk. I shouldn't have agreed, but I did. We sat in his car. He told me everything was being blown out of proportion. He said his wife and he were practically separated. He said they lived separate lives. He said the house was just a project they were finishing because it made financial sense. He said he loved me. He gave me money, a lot of it. He said it was for my safety, for stress, for everything I'd been through. Then he asked me for something. He said I needed to send his wife a message. He dictated the words carefully, that nothing physical had happened between us, that I had misunderstood, that I was emotional and confused. He said it would calm things down. He said it was necessary because of his faith, his family, his image. I told him I needed time to think. He nodded. He said he understood. He said he would wait. When he left, I sat in the car alone and realized something I hadn't allowed myself to see before. He wasn't afraid of losing me. He was afraid of being exposed. I didn't send the message he wanted. Not that day. I told him I needed to calm down first. He said that was fine, but he kept checking in, reminding me how serious the situation was. He said his wife was unstable. He said his sons were angry and not thinking clearly. He said I was the only one who could stop this from getting worse. He framed it as responsibility, as protection, as the right thing to do. I stopped answering his calls, but I didn't block him. I wasn't ready to fully cut him off. Part of me was still trying to understand how someone could live two lives so smoothly. Another part of me was scared of what would happen if I disappeared completely. A few days later, his wife called me directly. Her voice was sharp and tired. She didn't introduce herself. She didn't ask how I was. She said my name, and then asked how long it had been going on. I told her the truth. I told her when we met, what he told me, what I believed. I told her I didn't know about her. She didn't scream. That surprised me. She spoke slowly, like she was holding herself together by force. She said they had been married for over 20 years. They had built everything together. The house, the life, the reputation in their religious community. She said she felt humiliated. She said she didn't understand how I could do this to her. I told her again that I didn't know. I apologized. I meant it. She ended the call without saying goodbye. That night, his messages changed. The tone shifted. He wasn't asking anymore. He was insisting. He said I had crossed a line. He said his sons were blaming him, but they were also blaming me. He said they wanted to come and handle it. He said he was trying to protect me from consequences I didn't fully understand. I stopped sleeping well. He showed up again a week later, this time unannounced. He said we needed to talk face to face. He looked calmer than before, like he had decided on a strategy. He brought gifts, cash. He said I could move if I wanted. He said he would pay for everything. He said this didn't have to destroy my life. He repeated his version of the story, that his marriage was empty, that he stayed only out of obligation, that he was planning a divorce, that he just needed time. He said his faith made things complicated, but not impossible. Then he came back to the message. He asked me to write to his wife and say there had been no intimacy between us. He said it would save his standing in the community. He said it would protect his children from shame. He said it didn't erase what we had emotionally. He said it was just words. I asked him why the truth was so dangerous if he planned to leave anyway. He didn't answer that. Instead, he said I was emotional and not thinking clearly. He said stress had made me unstable. He said I needed rest. That word stayed with me. Unstable. I told him I needed space. He agreed, but only on the surface. He continued to text. To check where I was, to ask if I was eating, to remind me that he cared. Then I hurt my knee. It wasn't dramatic. I slipped on wet stairs outside my building and twisted it badly. It swelled. Walking became painful. I told him because it felt natural to do so. He reacted immediately. He said he would help. He said he knew someone abroad who could get special treatment that wasn't available here. A few days later, he came back from one of his trips. He brought small packaged injections. He said they were for inflammation and recovery. He said doctors use them overseas all the time. He said I was lucky he could get them. He took care of me. He cooked. He cleaned. He acted gentle again. Familiar. Almost convincing. Then he told me something that didn't sit right. He said one of the injections needed to be injected into my abdomen. He said it would work faster that way. He said it casually, like it was nothing. I asked why. He said that was just how it was used. He said I shouldn't question everything. That night, I didn't sleep. I looked at the injection again. The label didn't make sense to me. I didn't recognize it. The packaging looked different from anything I'd seen before. For the first time, a thought crossed my mind that scared me more than the truth about his marriage. What if this wasn't about healing anymore? I didn't use the injection that night. I told him my knee felt better and that I wanted to wait until morning. He didn't argue, but I noticed the way he watched me when I put the package back on the table. It wasn't concern. It was attention, focused and quiet. The next day, when he left to take a call outside, I took the injection and went to a private clinic. I didn't explain much. I just said I wanted to know what it was. They told me they would test it and call me. I went home and sat on the bed, staring at the wall. I kept thinking I was overreacting, that I had finally lost my balance after everything that happened. That I was looking for danger because I didn't know how to stop being afraid. The clinic called in the evening. They didn't panic. They didn't raise their voices. But they told me clearly that what he had given me was not medication for joint recovery. It was not something meant to be injected the way he described. They told me not to use it. They asked where I got it. I didn't answer that question. When I hung up, I didn't feel dramatic fear. I felt something simpler. I understood that whatever he felt for me, it wasn't care. And whatever story I was still telling myself, it was over. Before I go on, a quick moment. If you're still here and listening to this story, thank you. And if you want to support the channel, subscribing and leaving a comment really helps it grow. That's all. I didn't confront him. I didn't accuse him. I didn't need answers anymore. I packed what I could quietly. Clothes, documents, my laptop. I left the injection on the table, exactly where it was. I blocked his number. I changed my email. I booked a ticket out of the country within days. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. I left while he was away. I didn't leave a message. I didn't explain. I knew that anything I said would only give him another opening to lie, to negotiate, to pull me back into a version of reality that was never safe. I moved to another country and started over. Slowly, carefully. I worked small jobs at first. I learned how to sleep without checking my phone. I learned how to trust my instincts again instead of questioning them. Years later, I met someone who didn't disappear, didn't explain life in fragments, didn't need secrets to feel powerful. I married him. My life became quiet in the best way. As for Michael, I heard through others that he stayed with his wife, that they presented themselves as a united family again, that their image remained intact. Maybe it did. Maybe it didn't. I stopped caring. What I know is this. I survived a man who used faith as cover, money as control, and affection as a tool. And I walked away before he could decide what I was worth to him. That was the only ending I needed.